Welcome, Gerhard, to the Customer Experience Exchange. Thank you for joining us today. Now, you head up the global brand strategy for Nissan. Now, what elements do you feel are crucial to ensure that the overall customer experience is consistent with your overall brand promise?
When we look at the customer experience, we so often look at the in-dealership experience or the service experience. And I think it's important to take a step back and look at the customer experience with the product and making sure that that is also consistent with what we promise and their expectations. Then, of course, the experience that we offer in the dealerships and through the ownership experience, and then the messages we send and the experiences we offer outside of that. So how we behave in sponsorship, how we communicate our products, all of that needs to be consistent. And I believe if we just look at the service experience and making sure the customers are satisfied, which is of course very important, it's not enough. You also have to go a little bit more deeper and make sure that that experience is quite distinctive and rewarding to the customer as a whole package.
So what are you doing to achieve that?
So that's quite a long answer, because of course that goes way back into the product development cycle, which often starts 5 years before the model is available. So that's a big component of that. And then making sure that our frontline staff and our employees understand what the opportunities are, what they need to do to make the customer experience very good. And that is then very much focused on face-to-face training and so forth. And then making sure that our agency network and our communication teams really understand how to communicate and create experiences outside of the tight ownership experience is then all important, that everyone understands in the company what we want to do and delivering for that.
And how do you align your brand promise but on a global scale?
Achieving it is the scale of what we have to do and getting the timing right, so that you always have legacy issues, that cars that are 5 years old are still part of the customer experience. Changing the resources in the front line, and also in the office there's churn, there's new people joining. So it's building a culture in the organization is, I would say, probably, if you have to, just one thing, I would say making sure that you have a culture that's conducive to offering consistent customer experience that is also rewarding and distinctive, not just efficient. Because very often when we think about customer experience, people focus on satisfaction or efficiency, and I would like to add a sense of distinctiveness and excitement to that. And for that to build that culture and knowledge base internally is probably the strongest challenge.
Okay, and how do you align your brand promise then on a global level?
So, leading on very much to my previous answer, this will be to make sure that our people, whether they are engineers working on the next generation of a car or in the front in the dealership, really understand what we want to be and what we aim to offer our customers. And that's a journey. That is a constant process where we have to improve. I would not sit here and tell you that I think we've achieved it 100%, by no means, but that it's a focus, yes, absolutely, it's a focus that we're working on.
And what challenges do you face when differentiating your brand against your biggest competitors?
We all live and work in a dynamic environment, so our competitors have aggressive plans as we do, and they have smart people working for them like we do. So you have to accept that there's always a level of flux that's going to happen, and being able to respond is essential. So if I'm in a market and my job is to deliver a customer experience that is distinctive and unique, it is a balance between making sure that I'm part of the global structure, because our audiences are much more in tune with what is happening beyond their specific market, and the world is just smaller. And then the second thing is making sure that I'm relevant and what I'm doing is meaningful, and that's a balance. I don't think any brand can survive on either extreme of those 2 points. You have to find that balance in the middle.
How do you see brands evolving as we move deeper into the digital age?
Conversations with customers will become much more natural. The notion of just surveying customers once every 6 months and then reducing the responses to numbers and reporting that through the organization, I think that is going to change rapidly. Also from a customer perspective, customers will expect much more responsiveness and openness with from organizations, then the how we communicate, where we communicate, will, of course, the channels will change. Brands, I think, will have to become much more emotive and distinctive in the way we communicate. Sometimes we are a little bit too corporate in the way we communicate, and it will be much more one-on-one and should feel one-on-one. Behind the scenes, of course, we have to look at making the scale work, because it's impossible. We sell 5 million cars a year. It's impossible for us to have 5 million conversations or 7.5 million conversations with just new customers every year. So it's making that you can scale up for it, but for the customer it needs to feel very personal, very meaningful and timely.
And how do you see 2016 and beyond playing out for the customer experience sphere?
We internally sometimes talk about the empowered customer, that and this is not a new trend, but it's definitely gaining speed, is where customers can decide when they communicate, what they consume. They can filter out and block out messages, they can prioritize messages. So in the conversation between a brand and a customer, the customer now is in a very, very strong position to determine whether they would like to engage, and if they are, what they would like and how they would like to do it. So I see that trend continuing and speeding up even more. So from a brand perspective, it then requires much more flexibility, a much clearer understanding of how to use these different channels, and then making sure that we have messages and content that customers would like opt into engaging with. So, as I say, not a brand new trend, but a trend that will increase in speed definitely over the next year or so.
Are there any vendors out there at the moment that actually offer solutions that support this digital customer experience change?
I think what you'll end up with is a portfolio of specialists, and what will be required from these vendors will be the ability to collaborate in a team, because in such a fast-moving environment, I doubt that any specialist supplier could claim to know everything. And often we hear the agencies say they are through the line and 360 degree and all of those, which is fine, but this ability to work with a partner in engaging with customers, and then having vendors plug in as specialist suppliers as part of the bigger team, will be essential. And when we judge whether we can work with a specialist provider, that's one of the key considerations we have, is making sure that they can be part of the team, we can build a long-term relationship with them, and they're willing to collaborate.
Thank you so much, Gerhard, for joining us at the Customer Experience Exchange, and thank you for sharing your thoughts with me today.
My pleasure.